Hello everyone, you are on the channel Scary Story. Tonight, I have a tale that will make you think twice about taking shortcuts, especially through old, forgotten properties. It's a story about curiosity, trespassing, and a house that doesn't like visitors. Our story begins with 4 friends: Leo, Maya, Chloe, and Ben. It was a perfect autumn evening, the kind where the air is crisp and carries the scent of wood smoke and damp leaves. They were on their way back from a late afternoon hike, their laughter echoing through the quiet country roads as dusk began to settle. Leo, always the one looking for an adventure, pointed towards a silhouette on a distant hill. It was an old Victorian mansion, stark and imposing against the fading orange and purple sky. "Hey, look at that," he said, his voice full of excitement. "That's the old Blackwood Manor. They say it's been empty for decades." Maya, ever the practical one, shivered. "It looks creepy. I've heard stories. Bad stories." Chloe, who loved anything mysterious, was immediately intrigued. "What kind of stories?" Maya hesitated. "Just the people who go in don't always come out the same, that the house remembers." Ben, who usually followed Leo's lead, just shrugged. "It's probably just a bunch of local legends to scare kids." Leo saw his chance. "Come on, it's a shortcut. We can cut through the property and be back in town in after time. Plus, we'll get a closer look at the place." Maya protested, but the vote was 3-1. The allure of the forbidden was too strong. They turned off the main road and started up the winding, overgrown driveway that led to the house on the hill. The closer they got, the more the house seemed to grow, its dark windows like vacant eyes watching their approach. The once grand iron gates were rusted and hanging ajar, groaning like a tired old man as they pushed them open. The garden was a chaotic jungle of weeds and thorny bushes that snagged at their clothes as they walked. As they stood before the massive oak front door, a heavy silence fell over them. The air grew cold, and the playful mood from earlier had completely vanished. The door was adorned with a heavy, tarnished brass knocker shaped like a grim-faced gargoyle. For a laugh, Leo reached out and lifted the knocker, letting it fall with a deafening thud that echoed into the stillness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low, deep groan, the heavy door creaked open, just a few inches, revealing a sliver of utter darkness within. "See? It's welcoming us," Leo joked, but his voice was a little shaky. He pushed the door open further, and the smell of dust, decay, and something else, something strangely sweet and cloying, wafted out to meet them. Against Maya's better judgment, they stepped inside one by one, their foam flashlights cutting nervous beams through the oppressive gloom. The grand foyer was draped in cobwebs as thick as cotton. A sweeping staircase, covered in a dusty runner, curved up into the shadows of the second floor. Portraits with faded, watching eyes lined the walls, their gazes seeming to follow the small group of intruders. "This place is incredible," Chloe whispered, her voice full of awe as she ran her hand over a velvet-covered chaise lounge. A cloud of dust billowed up, making her cough. Ben was less impressed. "It's just an old dusty house. Let's find the back door and get out of here." But Leo was already exploring, his flashlight beam dancing across the room. "No way. We have to look around first." He disappeared into an adjoining room, which looked like a formal dining room. A long table was set for a dinner party that never happened. Plates and silverware still in place, all coated in a thick layer of grey dust. Maya stayed in the foyer, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not just by the portraits, but by the house itself. She called out, "Guys, I really think we should leave." Her voice sounded small and weak in the cavernous space. From the dining room, Leo called back, "Relax. What's the worst that could happen?" And that's when they heard it. A soft musical sound like a child humming a nursery rhyme seemed to come from upstairs. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. They all froze, looking at each other, their faces pale in the flashlight beams. "Did you guys hear that?" Chloe whispered, her eyes wide. Ben nodded slowly. "It's probably just the wind." But there was no wind. The air in the house was heavy and still. The humming continued, a simple, looping melody that was both innocent and deeply unsettling. It was a tune that didn't belong in a place of such decay. Curiosity, morbid and powerful, got the better of them. Led by Leo, they began to ascend the grand staircase, their footsteps creaking on the old wood, each step taking them closer to the source of the sound. The humming grew louder as they reached the second-floor landing. It seemed to be coming from the end of a long, dark hallway. The wallpaper was peeling in long strips, and the floorboards groaned under their weight. The melody was clearer now, a haunting lullaby that sent shivers down their spines. It was coming from behind a single closed door at the very end of the hall. The door was painted a pale blue, now faded and chipped, with a small brass crescent moon nailed to the center. It looked like the door to a child's room. Leo, with a deep breath, reached for the doorknob. It was cold, unnaturally so, like a piece of ice. He turned it slowly, the click of the latch echoing loudly in the silent hall. He pushed the door open, and the humming stopped. Instantly. The sudden silence was more terrifying than the sound had been. The room inside was a nursery. In the center stood a single rocking horse, its paint peeling, its button eyes staring blankly into the darkness. A crib stood in the corner, draped in a thin, dusty veil. The air was thick with that same sweet, cloying smell from downstairs. For a moment, they just stood there, peering into the room, their hearts pounding in their chests. And then the rocking horse began to move. Slowly at first, just a gentle rock back and forth. Then it picked up speed, rocking faster and faster, its wooden runners thudding rhythmically on the floorboards, a frantic silent gallop in the dead of night. They stared, paralyzed by fear. No one was pushing it. There was no draft. It was moving on its own. Chloe screamed, a raw, piercing sound that broke the spell. They turned and ran. They scrambled down the hallway, their feet tangling, shoving each other out of the way in their desperation to escape. Behind them, they heard a new sound, a soft, childish giggle that seemed to chase them down the hall, echoing from the walls. They tumbled down the grand staircase, not caring if they fell, their only thought to get out. As Maya reached the bottom, she risked a glance back up. In the darkness at the top of the stairs, she saw it. A small, shadowy figure, no bigger than a child, its form indistinct, its eyes glowing with a faint, malevolent light. They burst out of the front door and didn't stop running. They ran through the overgrown garden, thorns tearing at their skin, not even feeling the pain. They ran down the winding driveway, gasping for breath, the sound of the giggling still ringing in their ears. They didn't stop until they were back on the paved road, under the comforting glow of a street lamp, their chests heaving, their faces streaked with tears and sweat. They never spoke of what happened in the house. They didn't need to. The memory was seared into their minds. They took the long way home that night, and every night after. They never looked at the house on the hill again, but they knew it was still there, watching, waiting. The friends drifted apart after that. The shared trauma was a chasm they couldn't cross. Leo, once so adventurous, became quiet and withdrawn. Chloe lost her love for mysteries. Maya had nightmares for years, and Ben moved away shortly after. The house had taken something from them, a piece of their innocence, their joy. It had left a permanent scar. Some houses aren't just empty, they're hungry. They hold on to echoes of the past, and sometimes those echoes want to play. So if you ever find yourself near an old abandoned house on a hill, a house that seems to be beckoning you in, just keep walking. Some doors are meant to stay closed forever. Thanks for listening to this story on our channel. If you enjoyed it and want to hear more tales that will haunt your dreams, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Scary Story. Until next time, stay safe and check your locks.